how do I paint honey? Good question, Calyx. BIS all the way with the body and the butt in the chat. If you're a sub, you know what I'm talking about. How do you paint honey? The image that Calyx sent, actually I do need to open it up here. All right, I'm gonna be dragging this over yonder and bringing him right there. All right, here we go. Honey for the bees. I hate bees. You know what? I used to be a bee hater too. Now I'm a B- streamer. That is right. If you don't believe me, go check my stream stats. I am a B- streamer. All right. Honey. How do you do Riot's honey? It's actually quite simple. First of all, you need to think of wait, is it actual honey or the honeycomb too? The hive thingy, Calyx. Actually I should know that. But anyways, I'll start with the honey, only the honey. All right. So you do a shape, right? So honey's gooey. All of the shapes that you're gonna be adding on are gonna be rounded. They're gonna be bubbly, so to speak, or like just bulges. You know what I mean. Who doesn't love a good bulge, chat? So that's the first thing we're gonna be focusing on is the shape of the honey. We can add the color base to it. It's not gonna matter too much yet, but Johnny is reformed after hand feeding a bee. That is correct. I have hand feed a bee. When was this? 2 weeks ago? There was a baby bee that landed on my net, because I have mosquito nets. And it was late in the day, which meant that she was either gonna die or tired, or was simply tired. I took a syringe and I hand fed a bee, and its little tongue like that was drinking through the syringe. I am now a reformed bee hater. That's right. Anyways, so we have a shape here. We'll do this one and then we can add another one on top. By the way, guys, I missed you. Hope you missed me too. All right. So we have some of these shapes. You know what? I'll just do, for simplicity's sake, I'll just do one string here and then I'll add another one overlapping, and that should be the answer for it. I miss me too, John. Good. That is very good. Ah, shit. Here we go again. All right. So once you, this is actually pretty important. The shape is the main thing that will make it look. There's two things that will make it look like honey. Three things actually: color, the shape, and something called subsurface scattering, which we'll get to it in just a second. Right now, I'm really focusing on getting a shape nicely done. By the way, you guys can ask. Please do ask questions. The Silva Decodes segment. Please do ask them ahead of time. Don't wait for me to be done with answering a question and only then you posting it. Calyx is taking all the questions. Your question will not be lost. Calyx is taking care of organizing everything. So please do ahead of time so we don't stop for anyone, right? All right, so we have a nice shape here. This is good enough. Some areas are going to be pretty thin. Other areas are going to be bulgy. All right, like so. And should I zoom in on this? No, I should stay where I was. All right. And now, let's do that. All right. So some of the honey coming from here. Now that we have the shape, which is really important, this stretchiness, like adding the stretchiness look to the to the honey. Although this Riot version, it's almost a bit like, you know those candy animals that you see a lot of like Japanese do, like they stretch the candy and stuff. It looks a little bit like that. Some would say even glass. However, those are some of the similarities due to the sugar content of the candy. So we have the shape done. Next thing I do actually is I make a new layer on top of this layer and clip it. Here's how it looks. Right here. Bam. This is how it looks. I have layer for the honey, and then I have a clipped layer onto the honey layer, so that when I paint something, it won't go over the silhouette. So what do we do with that? First thing we do, you can go two ways on this. You can start with a soft brush, or you can start with the hard brush and then soften it up. I am a fan of going soft to hard. I don't know about you. You know, it's a popular favorite. I'm the same. But some people like going from hard to soft. And what we're going to be focusing on is the form of the honey without the subsurface scattering. So subsurface scattering is when light enters. Let me make a new layer here. Light enters inside of a translucent, or usually translucent type of material, and then it bounces in and out of the material until it eventually bounces out, right? And then it's out of there. So it's sort of like goes in, then ping pongs inside of the material, and then bounces out eventually. That's subsurface scattering, simply put. Now, here's the thing. What I do want to do first is ignore that for a moment. Also, I should keep my color here. I keep forgetting about that. I'm sorry. There you go. Here's my color wheel. So I color pick the main color, and then I go a little bit red and a little bit darker, right? And I'm gonna paint it actually a bit more saturated too. I'm gonna paint it while ignoring the subsurface scattering, and I'm gonna keep in mind where the light source comes from. So like top left, let's just say it comes from top left. So I'm gonna be rendering that. Actually, now it's a bit too, yeah, there you go. I'm just gonna think of these as a solid object, no subsurface scattering yet. And I'm just gonna render it like that. You know, soft first. We will be getting hard very soon. What's up, Neo? How are you doing? It's been a while. Nice to see you here. All right. Here we go. First soft. I'm already getting hard. Okay. And now I'm gonna do the same, but considering a little bit of the light. So let's go a little bit brighter. Like this, a little bit. Actually, this color, it seems like the light shining onto the character isn't like that hot. Maybe just a little yellow, just a touch of yellow. Yeah, all right. And now we're gonna shine light onto it. And after this is done, we're gonna be doing the subsurface scattering plus reflections, which is gonna throw this off a little bit. That's you don't want to spend too much time on this. What's up, Shelly? How are you doing? How are you doing, Shelly? You don't want to spend too much time on this because the subsurface scattering is going to change quite a bit the value structure. However, it's always good to have this as a base so that you have something to follow, right? So let's just go and do that. I'm gonna go back and make it darker. This is actually in shadow, so darker, redder. There you go. Next thing, which I was just doing now, but I stopped myself because I reminded, once you're done with light and shadow, I like to go with gradients. Gradients make the Riot world go around. So I just make a new layer and I start grading it out. Gradienting? I don't know. I just add more gradients to it. Like so, of dark and light colors. And I usually keep my saturation, I would keep the saturation relatively high. So also, I'm not holding my button, I'm not holding my pen. Hi, Halfsbro. I'm not holding my pen. I'm sort of like tapping very, very, very gently so that I don't go over, you know, what we just done. You can do this. You can also make a new layer, set it to hard light, and instead of being a dumbass like me, you can just do that and it won't really ruin your values that much. So there you go. All right, we're getting somewhere. Clap. Let's go be more orange, saturated orange for those shadows. All right, and I'd say we're very close to starting with the subsurface scattering. I think I did go a little bit too bright here and there, so I'm gonna darken back again some of these areas, especially where the thicker, the bulgier it is, the shape is, the harder the light can get into it, right? So that's what we're keeping in mind at all times. So I'm going to these really bigger bulges and making the light harder to penetrate. And where it's thinner, I'm gonna make it brighter, which we have a couple of areas like this. There you go. And this is the steps so far, and we're ready for subsurface scattering. Now, can we do something like that for lava molten metal? Probably. But hey, guess what, Black Shun? What you should do is follow the steps above, and you could ask that question yourself and get it answered. Whoa, it's crazy. You can actually get demos from me right now, today, after I answered this one. So just do that. Pog. What's the new segment? I will be introducing the new segment once we're done with the Silva Decodes. It's gonna be, I hope it's gonna be good. I've been working on it for a couple of days now. It's gonna be a few episodes, is all I can tell you. Today will be episode 1, tomorrow 2, day after 3, etc, etc. I think that's how I'm doing. Anyways, so once this is done, it's gonna be woke. Hey Few, what's up? So once this is done, subsurface scattering is about there's two things that will make this translucent looking: bounce light, highlights, and saturation, the saturation inside and shapes of it. Now we'll decode each part. So first part is going to be you can begin with either. I like to go lighter first and then bring my shadows slowly, and also I'm gonna go with a hard round brush. I'm gonna go with the highlights first. So when you go highlight, here's one thing I want to tell you about highlights. Highlights, don't do white highlights. All right, nothing against white, but you just want to avoid white as much as possible when you're doing highlights. At least tint them like give them a yellow tint. You know, never go pure white is what I would suggest. So I'm gonna go around. This is where your texture knowledge and your texture knowledge and just like practicing comes in what's the word I'm looking for? It's helpful simply because if you know form, then you know where your highlights are going to be. The same goes with light. If you know light and form, which those two cannot live without another, then you'll be better at doing what I'm doing right now, right? So I can't really explain you this, what I like the highlights part, without making another question to answer. So I'm gonna kind of like skip through these highlights a little bit, like so. And I'm gonna use some of the light here and decrease my highlights where the shadow is. We're gonna be doing the twists and turns here when I'll start adding the shadow, but like that. Let's go a bit more like this. All right, this is good enough for now because we're gonna come back to it. So now that this is done, the thing that's gonna make the most impact is these two next steps, which is the bounce light is gonna act like the subsurface scattering inside of the shape too, which is the light penetrating the honey, right? Let's assume next episode 2 is next week. Okay, calm down, Vedas. Honey Cheers tutorial. All right, now this is a pretty cool part. You want to go a bit less saturated. You can pick like the light that you already put in and go just a little bit more like desaturated, and you're gonna start filling in the edges. And again, this next step, it's all about practice of the texture. There's no real like way I can explain it in a short time because we still have the other questions to answer, which by the way, keep sending us questions, chat. Calix is keeping a track and I'll be following a list, so don't wait for me to answer your questions, answer questions in order for you to ask them. No, I'm gonna go with this hard round. So here's one thing I can tell you is that I'm gonna avoid the edge as much as possible. I'm not gonna go and do this. I'm gonna go like, I'm gonna let the edge sort of be darker. That is one main element that you'll notice of subsurface scattering. Actually, this is a little too desaturated. Let's go back to saturation. Like so. There you go. Now, essentially, like what I'm thinking about is I'm trying to think of if there's a wave, if there's a turn, anytime there's a twist and a turn, I'm gonna make the light react to it. So I'm gonna twist and turn my bounce light as well, right? So do this sort of motion, because we're trying to trick the eye into thinking that this is twisting, right? So let's do sort of like that. In some areas I will add like brighter edges, but I'll probably bring it back with the shadow. All right, so I rashly added some shapes here and there. Now what I like to do is with the, no, not yet actually. I forgot the shadows. So we're gonna go and do the shadows like I was saying for last. The reason why I do that, actually there's no real technical reason as to why, but there is a mental reason as to why I like to do the darkest darks as last. Is because I have the tendency to make my images quite dark. And this is just sort of like a safety net for myself to only edit later on, otherwise it's just going to be well, way too dark. You can use this brush. Actually, I'll make, wait, is this on a separate? No. I'm gonna separate the shadows on a new layer. And one thing I love doing, I'll show you now. I would recommend, generally speaking, when rendering, is you paint something, like you paint a shape like this, or like, yeah, like this. And then you switch to your eraser, pick a soft round brush, and then you erase the edge of it. So you get like a sharp edge and it sort of like softens up, right? I'm gonna be doing that over and over and over and over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. So paint some shapes, erase them, paint, erase. Oh, it's like, it's just ongoing. It just doesn't stop. What a madman. Someone stop him. Here you go. I'm just gonna keep going. I'm not following the image because then that's just a study. It's something that I didn't like on my previous questions, is that I was just following the image. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But I will try to avoid following the image as much as possible because I think it's more entertaining to create something new and it gives more legibility to my answers, because otherwise it's just a study instead of like actually explaining something. At least that's what I feel. So I'm gonna try not to copy too much. All right, there you go. Paint, erase, paint, erase, paint, erase. This is just something I really, really love. I wasn't used to doing this, by the way. It's not something I was always used to do type of deal. It's something I learned from Even Lee. I think that's his name. He's like an Asian artist that does really cool work. So twist and turn, there you go, erase, and just keep going like that with however you want it to look like, really. I just came back from a drift event and my mind is full of loud car noises. Can't really think of anything now. It's all good, man, don't worry about it. Giving a little bit of shadow here, a little bit of like, also every time you add a dark shape next to the highlights, it gives a very reflective, almost chromatic look. You want to be careful with it though, you don't want to overdo it, right? But it's always good to keep in mind to add, anytime you add a really dark color to a really right next to a really bright color, it just gives a sense of chromatic or very, very reflective look to it, right? There's one last step. I will be stopping here soon. From this point on is honestly just refining. So I'm not going to be spending much more time on this question, and we're going to be moving on to the other ones in just a second, because it's pretty much just explained. The whole thing is rinse and repeat type of deal. There's one last step I'll be doing, and that'll be sort of the end of it, of this question. Okay, so I'm gonna flatten everything, flatten all the layers, and now what I'm gonna be doing is I have smudge tool right now selected, and I'm gonna be pushing it back and forth, creating those like it just creates a better twist and gradient, and the bounce light, the subsurface scattering rather, tends to be more, we can fake it better this way, because it creates all of these interesting patterns that would have taken you longer doing, you know, like manually. So there you go. I'm just like sort of going back and forth, pushing shapes, one dark shape into a light shape. And they make milk chocolate shapes. I'm kidding. All right, here we go. Just keep going. And one last thing I'll be doing is, all right, just making sure that this all right, one last thing I'm gonna be doing is a layer on top of everything, set to hard light again, and I'm gonna go back into introducing gradients, because you sort of lose gradients as you render, and I want to reintroduce them back. Let's say like this, and then like that. Wait, this is hard brush. Hey, what's up, Forever? Looks great, John. Thanks. It's all good. We're gonna be moving to the next question in just a second here. Yeah, so reintroducing those. There you go. Those gradients, and it becomes a lot more glossier. Actually, there's one last step. You know, if I already came all this way, then I will do one final touch, which is rim light. After all, this is a Riot image. They love rim light. They would not live without it. It would not be an image without it. So I'm gonna pick some areas where I'm just gonna take the edge. This one we can actually go quite pure white. Still not there, but close enough. I'm just gonna take some edges here and add that rim light to it. Rim light makes it pop. Yeah. So you do want to be like sensible with your rim light, right? So okay. You don't want to like go all over. You don't want to splurge your white everywhere, right? You want to be sensible. You want to aim with your whites. Okay, there you go. Easy clap. There you go. And we're done.